and talents to making America great. Economically, culturally, in our churches, our towns, and cities across this country, the truth is that Mexican Americans and Hispanic Americans as a whole make a difference in America every single day. And that really is what we celebrate in Cinco de Mayo. We think of the extraordinary number of Hispanic-owned businesses, which actually grew by more than 50% over the past decade. And nearly half of all the Latino-owned firms are owned by people of Mexican heritage. And Latina-owned small businesses are the fastest growing business sector in the United States of America. And for more than 150 years, Hispanic Americans have served with distinction in every branch of the armed forces of the United States of America. And we honor their service now and always. The regiment in the Civil War, from the Arizona's National Guard Infantry Regiment in World War II, which General Douglas MacArthur called one of the greatest fighting combat teams ever deployed for battle. Hispanics have a long and proud history of putting on the uniform to defend our freedom and our very way of life. Over 250,000 Latinos today are serving in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard, and our reserves at this very moment. Folks, Mexican American and all Hispanic American communities are one of the most vibrant threads in our national fabric. Their success, your success, is America's success. And it's why Donald Trump is fighting every day to empower Hispanic Americans to contribute even more to our country's future. The President has made the Latino community a priority, and we always will. We've been participating already with the Latino Coalition, the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, in conferences and listening sessions with business owners, parents, teachers, healthcare workers. The President's made a point, as we've had listening sessions one after another at the White House, to ensure that we're hearing from the Hispanic community in America as well. Since day one, the President's taken decisive action to restore opportunity and prosperity for every American, including Hispanics, to make it possible for every American to climb the ladder of success and live the American dream. In fact, you saw the President's leadership on full display this last week. Thanks to President Donald Trump, what you saw pass in the House of Representatives today is the beginning of the end of Obamacare. Just a few short hours ago, with strong support in the U.S. House of Representatives, we took an important step to repeal and replace Obamacare and replace it, finally, with the kind of health care reform that every American deserves. But it's not just health care. President Trump's agenda also includes taxes and regulation and energy. The President is absolutely determined to ensure that as we go forward in this country, we promote policies that will create jobs and opportunity for every American, including Hispanic Americans. In fact, the President is preparing right now, after we move forward in the Congress with health care reform, this President is going to pass the largest tax cut in American history. All these issues we know are very important to the Latino community, as they are to every American. Just yesterday, the President also hosted a group of students from here in Washington, D.C., including many Hispanic children, to celebrate another important step, a step for educational opportunity. The President, in this week's spending bill, a bill he'll sign tomorrow, was able to extend the educational voucher program here in our nation's capital, opening doors of opportunity for disadvantaged children. You know, the D.C. Opportunity Scholarship Program really is a case study in school choice success. When the President signs its renewal into law in the spending bill this week, it will be a victory for families in Washington, D.C. You know, President Trump is really fighting every day, and will keep fighting every day with Secretary Betsy DeVos at the helm to make sure every child in America has access to a world-class education of their choice. So as I close on this eve of Cinco de Mayo, let me just say that, like all of you, I count among the greatest blessings of my life to simply call myself an American. And we're all descended from those who didn't have that blessing and strive with all of their might to obtain it. We are, as the saying goes, with a few exceptions, a nation of immigrants. And that's as true today as it was at the hour of America's birth. In his joint address to Congress, President Trump promised to, in his words, serve, protect, and defend the citizens of the United States, to strengthen the nation's security, to restore respect for our laws. Our president believes that a system based on the rule of law will benefit every American, including Hispanic Americans, through renewed safety and prosperity. And as President Trump said to Congress, real and positive immigration reform is possible. And on this eve of Cinco de Mayo, I can assure everyone here that as we move forward, we will, as the President said in his words, show great heart every step of the way. This is a deeply personal matter for those of you in this room, and it's also a deeply personal matter for me. You know, it was nearly a century ago that my great-grandmother, as the story goes in our family, handed my grandfather as a young man a one-way ticket from Ireland to America. The legend in our family is that my grandmother walked him up the hill outside that little house in Tubbercurry, Ireland. She looked across to the west of the Ox Mountains and thought of the Atlantic before them. And she said, "You have to go to America," because in his words, there's a future there for you. You know, Richard Michael Cawley, which happens to be where Michael Richard Pence got his name, stepped ashore on Ellis Island as a young man on April 11, 1923. He made his way to Chicago, where he drove a bus for 40 years. He put roots down. He built a good name, a wonderful family. He raised a precocious redhead whose blue eyes and red hair still flame to this day. She married a fast-talking salesman who took her down to southern Indiana, where I showed up. My grandfather's story, my mom's story, and my story is like the stories of so many of you here and the families that celebrate Cinco de Mayo this week. It's really the story of the American dream. My grandfather was an Irishman by birth, but he became an American by choice and was proud of it. And when he went home to be with the Lord in 1980, he left behind a family and a grandson who will forever be grateful for his courage and his willingness to come. It was Inauguration Day, just seems like a few short months ago, that I thought a lot about my grandfather. I was thinking, as I prepared to take that oath of office as the 48th Vice President of the United States, what my grandfather must have thought. And I was sure of just two things. Number one, he knew me well, so I'm sure he was very surprised. And secondly, I just know, looking down from glory, that immigrant grandfather of mine knew that he was right. He was right about America. That is, this is a land of opportunity and freedom, where anybody can be anybody. You know, it's the greatest privilege of my life to serve as Vice President to a president who each and every day is working his heart out to renew the American dream and the opportunity to live that dream for everyone in this country. And today, I say with confidence that the future is bright, brighter than ever before, for Hispanic Americans, Americans of every background. And with Donald Trump in the White House, and with your help and God's help, I know the best days for the greatest nation on earth are yet to come. So thank you for coming today, and happy Cinco de Mayo. You going to get this party started?
Well, let's get the party started. All righty. All right. The party is started. You take a few pictures of some of the folks?
Absolutely.
All righty. Great. Fantastic. All right. Mr. Vice President, Mr. Vice President, thank you so much. All of you, thank you for coming and spending Cinco de Mayo with us. Now the party has started.
Let me just say hello.
Oh, gracias.